The silence is the loudest sound in geopolitics. It is the sound of systems unwinding, of alliances fraying, and of global cooperation dissolving into isolated, self-referential spheres. We are not witnessing a simple political realignment. We are observing a profound strategic disengagement, a calculated withdrawal from the shared architecture of international order that defined the post-Cold War era. The danger posed by the movement is not the dramatic, visible act of defection by individuals, but the slow, insidious process of disengagement by states, a strategic decision to prioritize unilateral advantage over multilateral stability. This is the true tectonic shift underway, and understanding it requires looking beyond the headlines of border disputes and focusing instead on the architecture of global interdependence. The historical context of this shift is rooted in the post-1991 consensus. Following the collapse of the Soviet bloc, the dominant geopolitical strategy was one of managed competition, where great powers tacitly agreed to maintain a framework of rules, institutions, and shared norms. This framework, built on liberal internationalism, relied on the principle that mutual security was best achieved through interconnectedness. The shift we are analyzing is the deliberate rejection of this framework. It is the transition from an era defined by shared vulnerability and cooperative security to one defined by competitive isolationism. This disengagement is not merely a change in foreign policy. It is a fundamental reevaluation of the relationship between the state and the global system. It signifies a pivot away from the collective security paradigm, where threats were managed through shared alliances and institutional oversight, toward a paradigm where national interests are pursued through strategic autonomy, often at the expense of global stability. The danger lies in the fact that this disengagement is not accidental. It is a deliberate, calculated strategy to redefine the boundaries of acceptable international interaction, setting the stage for a world where systemic friction replaces managed equilibrium. This strategic disengagement has immediate and devastating consequences for the multilateral system. The architecture of global governance, the United Nations, the WTO, NATO, and various climate accords, was predicated on the assumption of continuous, if sometimes strained, engagement. When major actors choose to disengage, they systematically undermine the mechanisms designed to manage global externalities. Trade disputes escalate because the rules of the game are rejected in favor of transactional, zero-sum negotiations. Climate action stalls because shared responsibility is replaced by nationalistic resistance to global mandates. The erosion of institutional trust creates a vacuum that is rapidly filled by unilateral action. States, opting out of collective responsibility, begin to treat international law not as a binding framework, but as optional guidance, selectively applied based on immediate national advantage. This fragmentation means that problems that were once solvable through coordinated international effort, pandemics, financial crises, and environmental collapse, are now viewed through a purely nationalistic lens, making collective solutions functionally impossible. The consequence of this disengagement is a world where systemic risks are magnified, and the safety nets designed to protect the vulnerable are systematically dismantled. Economically, the disengagement strategy translates directly into a fracturing of global supply chains and a retreat from integrated markets. The era of hyperglobalization relied on the efficiency gained from deeply integrated production networks, where specialization and interdependence yielded massive economic benefits. The current trend, driven by strategic disengagement, is the reversal of this trend, the prioritization of domestic resilience over global efficiency. This manifests as aggressive decoupling, where nations actively seek to reduce dependency on external partners, particularly those perceived as geopolitical rivals. This involves the imposition of tariffs, the strategic stockpiling of critical resources, and the restructuring of supply chains away from open, interconnected systems toward closed, secure blocks. The result is increased costs for consumers, stifled technological diffusion, and the creation of parallel economic spheres. Instead of optimizing global output, the focus shifts to maximizing national self-sufficiency, leading to economic friction that threatens to destabilize the very prosperity that once underpinned the global order. The most insidious aspect of this disengagement is its function as a tool for the weaponization of sovereignty. When states withdraw from cooperative frameworks, they redefine sovereignty not as a responsibility to the international community, but as an absolute, unassailable right to act without external constraint. This shift allows for the justification of unilateral actions, sanctions, trade wars, and military posturing as legitimate exercises of national will, rather than as violations of international norms. The withdrawal from shared security arrangements, for example, allows states to pursue security strategies that are inherently more aggressive and less constrained by collective oversight. This creates a dangerous feedback loop. Disengagement fuels suspicion, suspicion justifies further disengagement, and the resulting isolation makes future conflict more likely. The geopolitical landscape is thus transforming from a system of managed competition to a system of competitive isolation, where the primary goal is not merely to win a localized conflict, but to dismantle the shared constraints that once limited the scope of global conflict. Looking toward the future, the trajectory of this disengagement suggests a world defined by strategic fragmentation. The world is moving away from a unified, interconnected system toward a series of competing, semi-autonomous spheres, each attempting to define its own rules and priorities. The long-term implication is a profound increase in systemic fragility. As the lines between economic, political, and security blocs harden, the ability to manage complex, transnational threats, from climate change to technological disruption, will diminish. The challenge for the next generation of global leadership is not simply managing the friction between these blocs, but finding a mechanism to reestablish a functional framework for shared problem-solving. If the current trend of disengagement continues unchecked, the result will be a world characterized by escalating, localized conflicts, where the costs of instability are borne by all, and the potential for catastrophic systemic failure becomes alarmingly real. The path forward demands a radical re-engagement, a difficult and often painful effort to rebuild the trust and institutional bridges that were systematically dismantled by the strategic retreat from the global consensus.